You're listening to Outside the Jersey podcast with Alex Playtez. What's going on, guys? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I apologize for the delay between episodes. Just been super busy at work, honestly. Got a new webcam set up, but just missing the white background. Regardless, today we have Faith Cain, who is a super dope person and a super talented ESPN analyst. She freelances for ESPN Plus and is also a former Division I softball player at Syracuse University. Today we learned a little bit more what she's like outside the jersey. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in to Outside the Jersey. I am joined today by Faith Cain, who is a ESPN analyst for softball. She is also has a multitude of hats. She was a former Division I softball player, as well as for Syracuse University, and as well as a fitness coach currently at a national chain. All three hats she's wearing at the same exact time. And I have her here today. Faith, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
In your own words, can you do me a favor and run me through who you are as a professional?
So right now I freelance a lot. So I work with ESPN. It's more ESPN Plus on that side of things. But I have worked as a softball analyst. I have worked as a sideline reporter with the WNBA. I have done a little bit of everything when it comes to all the different types of sports. I'm also part of a program called Rising Media Stars, which promotes Black women to become professional sports reporters.
Gotcha. Okay. All that being said, Faith, I thank you for even taking the time with me today. But wanted to learn a little bit more about who you are as a person, off the camera and stuff like that. So if you don't mind, just telling me a little bit, what do you like to do in your free time?
My favorite thing to do in my free time, I love to watch reality TV competition shows. That's who I am outside of broadcasting, but I am such a sports girly, and I know that's like part of my job, but like I could go to any sporting event you can imagine. I am someone who loves to help people. I'm a fitness coach, so I love fitness. I love just hanging out with friends and doing a lot of those type of things. Yes.
And I know you played softball
Mhm.
in college. Is that your favorite sport?
It would definitely be like my favorite sport to watch, cover. I also am a big football girly. I love the football game. My boyfriend plays football, so I feel like I have to be a fan of that. And, but those are like my two main sports that I really enjoy watching. And I've really been big since going to the women's Final Four last year. I have loved following women's basketball. So that's something I was just like introduced to. I always played basketball growing up, but to actually cover it and watch it in person, that's a sport that I've really been interested in as well.
When did you first fall in love with sports? As a kid, as more of an adult kind of person? When did you really like start to get into that?
So it's so strange because growing up with my mom, she is definitely not a sports person whatsoever. She was a dancer and gave that up very, very early. So she put me into sports at a really young age, like 7, 8 years old. And so I played every type of sport. I played soccer, softball, I did dance, I did gymnastics. I actually got cut from my soccer team, which is why I started playing softball, but thank God that happened. And um, yeah, so I've loved sports since I was a kid. I've always been that sports girl.
Gotcha. And you obviously were successful in high school to play softball. I know you were nationally ranked coming out of high school as well. So can you tell me a little bit more about how that experience was transitioning from high school to a Division I program in Syracuse University?
So I actually have a pretty wild ride when it came to like my recruiting visit or my recruiting story and everything. But at the time, I was one of the youngest players to ever get recruited. And that was when I was like 13, 14 years old, right before high school. So, like in eighth grade. And I had actually committed to go to Nebraska. But things just ended up not working out where I got injured. I ended up getting a case of the yips, if anyone's heard of that at all, when it comes to softball, but being this big time pitcher. And I had to kind of decide senior year where I was like, all right, where am I going? Because it was very kind of last second when all of this went down. So I ended up going to a junior college for 2 years, and I worked under one of the best coaches that I would say I've ever had in my entire life, someone who's like never given up on me. And she worked with me day in and day out just to get better. I was someone, one thing about JUCO, I will say it 10 toes down, is that it is so much harder, I think, when it comes to practice and the way things work, compared to playing at the Division 1 level. Because in the JUCO route, like, we don't have rules. It doesn't matter how long you practice. You can practice as long as you want. And I remember we used to be working from like 1 p.m. in the afternoon. We'd have small breaks for like dinner and to work out. And then we would have to go right back to practice. We'd be doing conditioning until almost 11 o'clock at night. So, I mean, it was tough, but I mean, she taught me so much. And I, one of, I mean, I'm so thankful for her. And then I said I wanted to go play broadcast, or I wanted to go into broadcasting. So that's why I wanted to go to Syracuse, and she helped me do that and reached out, and I ended up walking on, but I ended up earning a starting spot and making it happen.
Wow. And I think a lot of people don't understand, like you said, you were like one of the youngest people who were ever recruited in high school, and yet you still went to a junior college because of what you went through. And that experience, do you feel like that made you stronger and everything like that? Like, what would you attest that to your success now, even as a professional?
Absolutely. I always say, you know, at the time, softball was very much my identity. I was like, what is happening? And this just got stripped away from me. I still say today, like when I go back home to Omaha, Nebraska, I feel like everyone knows me as Faith, the softball girl, or Faith, the girl who couldn't make it to Nebraska. So, it's sometimes tough. But I look back and I'm like, God definitely had a plan for me at that time. I wasn't supposed to go to Nebraska. I was supposed to be at Syracuse. And how hard it is for me to like kind of comprehend that when I was, 17 years old. It makes me look back now and I'm like, that taught me to be relentless. That taught me to be determined and always continue. And no matter what, I'm someone who could have easily given up the sport, but I was able to play in a Power 5 school at, a top level school of Syracuse. And for me, I'm like someone who's very proud of that, because now I look at that and I'm like, sports reporting, this is a tough job. This is a job where you constantly get no's, and it's something that you have to keep fighting for, working for, to get that breakthrough. And I'm going through that now, where it's just like I keep on building, trying to get better. So I think that definitely taught me to have that relentless attitude to be able to be where I'm at today.
So that actually perfectly leads into my next question, which was, what made you want to pursue sports journalism as a career?
So one of the biggest reasons, I started out in high school and I was like, I love writing. I was one of those kids that used to come home and I would read my stories to my parents, and they're like, oh gosh. But I ended up, when I was in journalism class in high school, my teacher was like, why don't you try like going in front of our like morning newscasts that we would have. I thought I was too shy for that. If you meet me initially, usually I'm someone who's pretty quiet, pretty shy, really laid back. So I was like, I don't know about this. We'll see. I ended up falling in love with it. And I think part of that would be because of my journey, because I know when I was going through all of my yips and all of my injuries that I was having in high school, I remember, this is me being a 16-year-old kid and reading articles about how coaches would comment on how I'm struggling, or um, what I'm going through with my pitching and why I'm not pitching at the level that, I was a year ago. And I never truly got to speak about my experience during that time. Like, no sports reporter ever took the time to even speak to me and to let me tell my story. And so I kind of look back at that, where I'm like, I want to allow other athletes to tell the story that they have going on and be able to share that in the right way, and in the way that is also journalistic, but also allowing them to share this short a part of their life, because sports is so short in life and we should enjoy it, and we should celebrate all the people that are doing great things.
You know, now that I think about it, like I don't think I've ever really heard of a story of like the yips being even reported, even in baseball. You know what I mean? Like, um, so that's actually a take I've never heard before. Like that's why you wanted to go into journalism and really give that those type of athletes a platform to really share what they're doing and stuff or going through. Excuse me. Um, and so I know you graduated out of Syracuse in 2018. Um, and afterwards, shortly after, you enrolled in the famous Rising Media Stars by the goat China Robinson. Um, tell me about a little bit about that experience and what that really helped you, how that helped you in your career.
So, I mean, it's everything. I give all thanks to it right now, all blessings for sure, because when I came out of school, being an athlete, like I didn't have the time or the chance to do a lot of those extracurricular activities to be able to, practice my broadcasting as much. And so, truthfully, when I came out of college, I was like, I am not good. Like, people were, I mean, even my professors, you can ask them, some of them were like, Faith, or, you being on TV. Like, I just wasn't. And that's okay. Like you grow so much. And it was hard to hear also, for someone who that's your dream to be on TV and you struggle. But I, shortly after, got into that program. And I'll be honest, I got into that program, and the first thing we did is we went to the WNBA. We went to the Atlanta Dream game, and I was so nervous. I was so intimidated by the other girls and everyone else that was in my class, where I was just like, oh my gosh, am I cut out for this? And here's LaChina Robinson, like the GOAT, as you said, someone who is so great, and she's watching me just like continue to mess up every time I did like a sideline report. And I was like, oh my gosh. um but the more I did it, the more I got to know the girls. Like, it really has became a sisterhood, and we believe in each other so much. We have helped each other so much. And LaChina has turned into such a true mentor. And just to see the growth I've had since like day one of being part of that program, and all the events I've been able to do, like go to the women's Final Four, cover the Atlanta Falcons. I just went to the Women's College World Series, so I was there. And that's been my dream, where I'm just like, I have dreamt of being in Oklahoma City since I was 10 years old. And the fact that I just got to go there has just, I mean, it's been amazing. And now we had a graduation where each of us had to speak up, up in front of the mic, in front of all these people. We had to introduce ourselves to a lot of people. And someone even said it, one of the girls part of the class, she goes, if you would have met you like a year ago and been put in that place to talk in front of all these people, I probably, it would have been a mess. Like, who knows what I would have said up there. But I stood up there, I was proud, I did it, and I'm able to talk to people now. It's just, I mean, it's helped in so many other aspects of life too. And I have four sisters that I can turn to, actually everyone in the program that I can turn to at any time, and we are always there to help. And you don't find that, especially in this industry. Like, there's so much competition that everyone's usually, all up against each other. But the fact that I can call up, Andrea Carter, Zora Stevenson, and they're going to answer the phone and be like, what can I do for you? Like, that's just, I mean, it's, I can't even explain how much this program means to me.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to that in the sense that like I think connections and building relationships are everything, especially in sports.
Yes.
Um, I think like this is still a business. Like people I don't think people understand that sometimes. Like you're just doing the news for sports. You know what I mean? And you still have to build those connections behind the scenes, and even with the people who are connected to like the other networks, maybe even by just
Mhm.
building those type of relationships and maintaining those relationships as well, because you never know when you're ever gonna run into the same people over again. And in sports, I think is unique where though there's so many sports around the United States and the world, a lot of people you'll still run into the same people over and over again, no matter where you go.
I was thinking that this week, where I'm just like, I see, it's such a small knit community, and it's been so cool just to meet all the people that have been a part of it, and the fact I'm meeting, the people who put those top level people in the positions that they are, and being able to create those relationships, it's priceless. So.
Yeah, and again, that's another recurring theme that I've learned in the short time I've been doing this podcast. It's just about, especially with women, like finding other women in sports is crucial, and it's just amazing to see like you guys keep on putting yourself up on pedestals. You know what I mean? Like really supporting each other and everything like that. Because for guys, I really do feel like it is a competition for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's trying to one up one another. Um, but for women, it's actually the complete opposite. That's at least that's what I've learned so far, or have noticed. Um, and I want to switch gears a little bit here, just to talk a little bit more about your interests. But on top of being an analyst for ESPN, you're also a fitness coach at a national chain. Tell me more about that and like why you wanted to take that on top of being an analyst.
I wanted to be a fitness coach because I love helping people. I've been a part of the Orange Theory brand for a really long time, since I actually have been in college. During the summers, I would work there as just like a sales associate and such. But I one thing that Orange Theory has helped me with, and I will always stand by this, is finding my voice. So I had to put a mic on, and how I said, I'm sometimes shy, quiet in the background. I had to put a mic on and I had to command a room. And one thing I love, one of my favorite things to hear all the time is they're like, Faith has such a broadcasting voice. I said, oh, that's great, because that's what I want to do in life. But uh, so it's definitely helped me with that. Like, I love talking to people. I love helping people. The fact that people are coming up to me and saying, Faith, you have helped me so much in my fitness journey. And it's just fun. Like, what other job do you get to go to and you get to yell at people for fun? And it's helping them at the end of the day. So I love talking to people now. It's one of my favorite things to do, is building those relationships and hearing how other people are doing. And I think that's what Orange Theory has allowed me to do.
Well, yeah, I never would have expected that from that type of that type of job either.
Yeah. It also,
uh,
at the end of the day too, it pays. It's the job that pays the bills. Broadcasting's tough, and you gotta, again, like, I'm more like a freelancer working with ESPN Plus and such. So like, I have to do a Monday through Friday, day to day, and then I needed a job that will allow me the flexibility to, go on these big trips and cover the Women's College World Series and such like that. So Orange Theory has allowed me to do that.
gotcha. Yeah, well, shout out to Orange Theory then.
Yeah, right.
um, Want to transition a little bit back into your career, but what do you feel like, or your journey, excuse me? What do you feel like has been the biggest challenge in terms of transitioning from full-time athlete for most of your life to being an analyst and freelance reporter as well on ESPN?
I think the most challenging part has been like finding my identity, finding my confidence in a new way. Um, being an athlete, I had, your Faith, the softball player. Like, that's what people knew me as. And so learning that I am more than just a softball player. I'm a sports reporter. I'm a woman of God. I'm someone who's loving, a fitness coach, someone who loves to help people. And sometimes as an athlete, we put so much pressure on ourselves and we put so much hard work into our sport. But now being able to, make that change where it's like, I'm not Faith, the softball player anymore. Like, people don't know me for being on the field anymore. Um, People know me for the other things I have done. So, I think that's one of the hardest, which is more of like a mental thing than anything, is trying to now turn the confidence that I had as when I'm up to bat and say I'm going to hit this ball no matter what, to now having the confidence in myself of I'm going to be a great sports reporter and be this person when this is already a space that is already tough to come into.
Gotcha. Well, I hope this makes you feel better, but I know you as Faith, the sports reporter.
Well, I
So,
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
um, I also want to get your take on a couple of like women's sports, not issues, but like thought provokers, right? Um, I know you like the world knows now that women's sports is definitely profitable, and very in its early stages of about to blow up. You know what I mean? About to go to the moon.
Hmm.
Um, when you see the growth of like the WNBA, volleyball, professional volleyball for women's, and even the soccer team for women, soccer league for women, um, where do you see women's sports in the next few years, especially with organizations like AU Sports, and other organizations coming out of the blue just to support and really give women a platform in those specific leagues?
Well, I think people, and I mean, you have to applaud people like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese who have come into the women's basketball space and literally just blown it up. They have a lot of pressure on their back. And I think people are starting to realize because of people like them that, this sport is interesting. These women are good. These women can do things just like the men can do. And we can be how we want to be too. Um, but I see sports continue. I mean, I think it's still going to blow up. I think it's still going to grow. There's so many up and coming stars. Softball is one of the fastest growing sports in the entire country. So, I mean, that's naturally going to grow just because people want to play it. Like young girls want to play it. And so, yeah, I still see it continuing to grow. I think it's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. I think we're going to start getting more coverage. I think we deserve more coverage. And I think people who technically aren't maybe a part of, like, I'm going to use because women's basketball is really where you're seeing the growth right now. I'm going to take people who never covered the WNBA, who never covered women's college basketball. Now they're like, oh, we want to come over here. Um, which is hard sometimes because it's like, hey, we've been here. And now you want to come in, but we want to allow that as well because we want the sport to grow and um, see that. And I always say, like, for me, personally, like this, what has LaChina Robinson has done with women's basketball and being able to see that firsthand with the connection she's made, the growth of the sport that we have seen just through her because of broadcasting. I'm like, I want to do that on the softball side because I still think softball has a lot more to do and a lot more growth to see. Um, and I want to be that person when you think about, college softball. So just seeing her do that, I think is awesome. And I think there's going to be more pioneers like that as well.
Well, that's amazing to hear, and I fully really do support you and hope you really become one of those pioneers because softball, like you said, softball's growing. I always see it on ESPN nowadays,
Yes.
especially now this time of year. And if I'm being honest with you, I think it's a little bit more interesting than MLB. So just because of how I feel it's a lot more fast paced, honestly. So, um,
It's a lot more fast paced, and I mean, even viewership is. I mean, I think last year's the Women's College World Series received more views than what the Men's World Series saw. So I mean, it's growing. And it's such a sisterhood. Like, it's crazy when you see the little girls at the Women's College World Series and what they're doing there. Like, everyone's looking up to each other. All the former softball players are there saying hello, and it really is like a family, and it's just crazy to see like how much we have grown together. And I think there's going to be so much more.
gotcha. Um, and that leads perfectly into my second to last question for you, which is, how do you feel like not just men but everybody can best support women's sports, whether that be through talking about it more to their friends, social media posts, just having on the TV. Like, how do you feel like, in your opinion, is the best way to support women's sports?
I mean, I think the best way to do it is talk about it. And when I say talk about it, like talk to your friends, talk to or put it on social media. repost things. Like if you see someone make a great play, like repost it and put it on, put it on your story or anything like that, because that's just going to show like, hey, I'm watching, hey, I'm paying attention, and it gets the word out. Social media has so much power nowadays. And so I just think getting the word out on that is the best way, especially for the men, and also just not to degrade it. That's something we've seen in the past. And I'm not putting down your sport. I will never put down an athlete in any one of their sports, whether it's something I enjoy watching or I don't, because we are all athletes and we are all putting in the work day in and day out. And we need to support one another. So that's how I see the support. And I think sometimes, like, we've seen the heat come from the WNBA, we've seen the heat in women's college basketball, and I just think lifting each other up. Now, I'm not saying not be a journalist. I get it, report the facts, but also lift the sport up. I mean, again, we're grinding day in and day out, and we should be supporting each other in everything that we're doing.
Gotcha. Thank you, Faith. Thank you for saying that. And I think that's super important. Just like, even like when you're trying to sell like a product in any kind of way, I think word of mouth is the best form of marketing in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think same goes for supporting women in sports. I've been telling my friends, pull up to the local WNBA team that I'm at. Like, pull up. It's such a fun time. It's so much fun. It's a lot more entertaining than the men's counterpart. and that was very surprising to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I first went.
Like, go to games, support that. And again, word of mouth, I think, is big. Bring your friends to games. If you go to a WNBA game, take your friend. If you go to a softball game, take your friend. Like, you're going to open them up to a whole new world that I don't think a lot of people realize. Like, I mean, I'm going to be straight up honest. I am someone who did not follow women's basketball very close. I played basketball since I was like 8 years old and played all the way, mostly through high school. My senior year, and then I just focused on softball, but it was never something I really kept up with, watched very often. And the time when I went to the Final Four and I realized how much, I'm like, okay, this is a sisterhood like softball. Like, this is awesome. Like, the way everyone's like, we want to lift up these women. And now I'm a huge fan. So, and I know it's just, it's coming in late, but I mean, I made it. So
exactly. That's the most important part. It's the most important part.
Exactly.
Last question I have for you, Faith, is what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Whew, that's a tough one. I've heard a lot over the years. I would say for me, and this is something more recent because I'm thinking more of my career now, but one of the best piece of advice, and it's going to come from LaChina Robinson, so it's great, but those who stay uncomfortable the longest are the ones who make it. And when she says that, she's talking about, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You have to keep pushing, and it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be a tough road. Like, going after your dreams and everything that you do, whether that's in athletics or whether that is through your career, it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But if you just keep going, one day it's all going to work out. And I know that. And, so that's even tough now. I'm out here grinding. I went to the Women's College World Series, and did I get paid a cent going out there? No, absolutely not. But I covered the sport. I made my face known. I got it on social media. And I know one day those connections I made are going to pay off.
Gotcha. Faith, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. Where can the people find you on social media?
People can find me, my social media, Instagram, Faith Cain. Very simple. Spelled C-A-I-N. My name. And then Twitter, Faith Cain TV. So you just add the TV at the end. But that's where I'm mostly going to be at. And, of course, TikTok is growing, and people should check me out there as well. Where I'll have a bunch of softball updates coming at you.
Perfect. And I can't wait to see the day where you're full-time over
yes,
at ESPN.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
That's the goal. By the time I'm 30 years old, that is the goal.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Faith, again, thank you so much, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to Outside the Jersey. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You can follow us at Outside the Jersey on TikTok and Instagram. Until next time.